Welcome to the first session of East Main 101. It's your inside look at Jackson, Tennessee city government. I'm just here to do some education to all the residents here in the city. My name is Kenneth Cummings. I'm the Communications Director for the city of Jackson. And today for the first episode, we have our Mayor Scott Conger. I just want to read a bio about him. Scott Conger was elected mayor of Jackson on June 18th, 2019, and again for his second term on June 13th, 2023. Mayor Conger is the third member of his family to serve as mayor of Jackson. Mayor first served as city councilman in 2011, representing District 5 of Midtown. He served in several committees. Along with his political responsibilities, he served as president and CEO of United Way of West Tennessee from 2015 to 2019. It's an organization that brings people and resources together to help meet the needs of the area. Before United Way, his career began in higher education. He was working as an admissions counselor for Lane College, later transitioning to the director of loan management program. He went on to serve as the donor management director for West Tennessee Healthcare Foundation. He's an alumnus of Lane College and was rewarded with the Tradition Award and Outstanding Young Alumni from the National Alumni Council of UNCF. He went on to earn his Master's in Business Administration from Bethel University, where he served as an alumni ambassador for the program. He's an alumnus of Leadership Jackson and West Star, and he is committed to providing an educated workforce throughout West Tennessee. Mayor Conger, welcome to the first episode of East Main 101.
Yeah, glad to be in the new studio, and thank you for reading the short bio.
Yeah, most definitely. I know how you are about your bios, and I went to the site to copy and paste. Like, I'm not going to do this whole thing.
Yeah.
We're just going to do just a little bit of it. So, again, it's East Main 101. It's education on city government. I'm excited to be able to do this. I appreciate you for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, no, studio looks great. I like the logo in the back here.
Yep, most definitely. It was a working effort to be able to get this studio together. It's been a dream of mine to have something like this for the residents of this city. Again, thank you for being on this first episode. Again, this is just education. We're going to learn about city employees. We're going to learn about not just the mayor, but other city employees from the mayor's office. And I don't say down, I say mayor's office on through to the rest of the team.
Oh, yeah.
Because we are one big team here in the city of Jackson. Again, I'm excited to be able to share this with you all. So, Mayor, we go to a lot of different events, and we have students come to City Hall to do tours and learn about you. And one of the questions that they ask a lot is, what do you do? What's your schedule like? What does the mayor do? So if you can just kind of tell us, what do you do?
What do I do? I wish I knew what I did. Every day is different. I think that's probably one of the things I like about doing this. Depending on the time of year, depending on the week, the time of the month, whether it's preparing for a city council meeting, whether it's, right now we're preparing for next year's budget, which our budget starts July 1, and so preparing for that, doing interviews, going and talking to students, talking to groups, having people come into City Hall, meeting with department heads, cabinet members. But I would say probably making decisions is probably, what it is every day, and just trying to have different puzzles to solve and different issues to try to make better and try to improve upon. And so, meeting with a group out of Nashville today for lunch, having my day today, which looks like no other day. Started out at Air Relief Ministries for a breakfast here, then have a budget committee meeting, and then go meet with a group from Nashville at lunch, and then have an interview with a potential finance employee this afternoon, then meet with the youth council after that. And so today is not a day for baseball or softball for my kids, so I get to go home after work. But this time of year also I get to sometimes not get home till 9 o'clock doing baseball and softball.
So it's not just signing papers and just sitting.
Yeah, I do a lot of that too. Yeah,
do a lot of that. I've seen him do it, proclamations and whatnot. But he does a lot more here for the city. As mayor, you're kind of like the CEO of all the employees. Just kind of talk about the employees that you serve here or that work for you.
No, they work with me. I get to work with, looking at part-time and temporary, somewhere around 800 employees. And so, yeah, it's governmental structure. If you look at the city like an organization, I'm the CEO of the organization. The city council serves as the board of directors. And so they set the budget, they approve the budget, and that gives me the budget to work within throughout the year and our departments to work within. And that's so we have a kind of a cabinet level that I meet with monthly, and we do updates and reports and kind of talk about big picture things and projects. That's our public works, our planning, growth and development, finance, human resources, police, fire, dispatch, recreation, parks and tourism, and innovation. And I'm going to skip over some, I'm sure, and they're going to get me for that because I'm trying to go through my head really quickly. But yeah, then monthly we meet through that, and then throughout the month and throughout the year, meeting with other department heads that fall underneath those categories on different projects that they're working on, whether it be construction projects or implementation or new plans that we're doing, trying to find innovative ways and cost-effective ways to make Jackson better just a little bit every single day.
Well, there will be homework since this is education. So, my homework, and I'll put it at the end, but it'll be more about letting people see all the different departments.
Yeah.
If you forgot them, we can get people to look for them
Good.
and look them up. So you do a lot. You have a lot of employees here. I'm one of them, and it's been a joy working here for the past year 5.
Yeah, almost. Yeah,
August is coming up, and so we know that I've seen you work. I've seen how you carry yourself as a leader for the city, for the employees. I mean, even just when we go places and there's a banquet, you're always at the end of the line. You love doing that leadership. And I tell people people at my church or just people around about the story that you've told before about your granddad and how you got into public service. Why and what made you want to get into public service? And also just tell that story about your granddad. I love hearing that story.
Yeah, well, I tell people I graduated college wanting to teach. My grandmother, my mom, both retired public educators. Married a public educator. I'm thankful I went on 2 interviews, and they were 2 teachers were supposed to retire. I'm thankful they didn't retire. I've been an awful teacher. And so working in higher ed, got my master's degree and got involved in the neighborhood association. And just saw an opportunity to serve at a higher level in public office. In 2010, I started looking at running for city council, and I talked to my granddad at that time, who was still alive, and he was battling dementia at that point. But we had a conversation, and said, "Hey, I think I want to run for city council now." So when my granddad was mayor, it was mayor, 2 commissioners, so he didn't have to deal with. I said, he didn't have the opportunity to work with non-council members. He worked with 2 other commissioners. They met weekly. Mm-hmm. It was not a monthly meeting, and so different world for him. And so I told him I want to run for city council, and he said, I'll help you do anything you want me to do. I'll help you any way you want me to help you if you're running for the right reasons. Now, if you're running to serve people and to make Jackson better, I'll do whatever I can to help you. If you're running to get your face on the news, your name in the paper, then I'm not here to help you, because that's not why you run for public office. And that's always stuck with me on. And when I talk with people about wanting to serve in positions, or if they, some people come talk to me about wanting to maybe run for office or serve on a board or serve somewhere, I always reiterate that point that he gave me. It's we have to do it for the right reasons, to make our community better, to make our city better. If you're doing it to make a name for yourself, then you're not in it for the right reasons. For the right reason. I love hearing that story. That actually inspired me to just. I'm a background guy. I like being in the background. I don't like really my name out. Well, I like my name out, but I'm not one of those. I want my name on everything. My work. I feel like my work is what shows what I do. I tell people all the time, let your work speak for you. Let what you do be the reason why people want to work with you. And I truly feel like that story can be an inspiration to mentors and people who are menteed by those. So again, I love hearing that story. It's one of my favorites. And being in public service, we know that it's a lot of work because it's public.
68,205. I learned maybe gone up.
Yeah,
since the last
I looked
census.
at last week. It was 311, I think.
300.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
We gotten up. That's good. So dealing with the public, I know public service is a lot, and I know when you got on 2019, you didn't expect. We knew 2020 was coming, but we didn't expect what was to come with 2020. Dealing with COVID, it was something else to be able to, for me, coming from journalism into government and dealing with COVID from this side versus having to cover it. Personally, I believe as mayor, you handled COVID for our city in a way that I can't imagine, if it were not you, how this city would have gone through COVID. And that's just a personal thing for me. There are probably many others who watched you on our COVID lives that probably think the same thing. But just talk about how being a public servant in the role that you are as mayor, dealing with COVID and dealing with the public as a public servant during that time.
Oh gosh, I try to forget about COVID as a as a public servant. Yeah, it was something that nobody was prepared for. There was no playbook for it. I remember, prior to COVID, the month prior, my family and I were on vacation, and we were joking about it. It was kind of one of that thing that was really far away.
Yeah.
And got back, and I remember talking about we're going to clean things. It's kind of sad that we got to remind people just to wash your hands. We got to have a pandemic every few years, or the threat of one, just to remind people to wash their hands, and then here it comes. And it was very polarizing because we didn't know how to handle it. There was no playbook.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying to figure out the best way we could. I was very fortunate to have Mayor Harris, Kim Tedford, Jason Moore, Matthew Marshall, James Ross, Jim Farrell, Kyle Spurgeon.
King.
Started with Eric Jones and Ray Washington, then Dr. King. That was all in that kind of transition
that's
right there. And so I guess started. I think it started with Ray Washington. Yeah, then Dr. King came in, got hired during COVID. But yeah, we met every day. And it's how you got to know people, those folks very well. 2-3 hours a day just meeting and talking about strategies of what's going on, updating of the numbers of what's happening, what we're hearing from Tennessee Health Department, from the federal level, what we're looking at the local goals, and just kind of reiterating what our goal was to make sure that our hospital was not overrun. So if someone came in for a non-COVID related issue, that they had a space to go. And that was the whole, kind of just honing back in on that of getting around everything else, of, the people politicizing everything. We had to, get away from that. We had some very candid discussions. We all didn't agree on everything, but we had to come together in the end on the path forward with the end goal in mind of how do we protect our asset. How do we make sure that if people go into the hospital that need care can have care? And that was the best path that we could figure out to go forward with.
Wow. And being in it, being, of course, your Facebook Lives, people love watching it for you, of course, but to get the information on what's going on in the city, bringing the city into the 21st century where people can actually access and hear from the mayor, talk about what's going on in the city, all the information, the transparent aspect of it it's been amazing to see this progress from 2019 to where we are now and how we've gotten. And just dealing with how do you do it? How do you deal with? I guess deal with is not a good way. How do you manage with the public and all the negative, the politicizing, the pots? How do you manage that within? Just as a person, as a public servant, how do you do that?
This is going to sound really corny and weird. And I mean, you see the coffee mug that I have on my desk, and so I purposely drink it with my left hand, and it's a Tennessee Municipal League coffee mug, and on one side it says Tennessee Municipal League on it, and on the back side it says the Mayor's Cup. And I can't remember what book I read, but there was a story about an undersecretary that talked about the cup. And that reminds me that all this stuff the opportunities that I get, the places I get invited to, the front table seats, the complimentary, come to our event and speak and all this stuff. They're not asking Scott to come speak. They're asking Mayor Conger to come speak. Mm-hmm. And one day that title will go away and that cup will go with it and those requests will go with it. And so it's not me personally that it's that the requests come from, that the treatment comes from, good and bad both. Probably the bad may be personal. I don't know. But it's the position, and that's only temporary. And at some point, that cup will be a styrofoam cup or be the cup at my house, but it won't be the mayor's cup anymore. And that's where just what reminds me every day. That's why I go wash that cup in the sink and then just reuse it every day just to remind me that that's the chair I'm sitting in is the mayor's chair. It's not Scott's chair. The parking spot that I park in it doesn't say Scott Conger's spot. It says the mayor's office. And so that's where it is. And it's you have to keep that in perspective of it's not you as a person. It's the position that you hold. And it doesn't make me special. They're not going to, the day that I'm not in this office, those requests will not be there anymore. They're going to ask the next person to be in those seats to come to that event to speak and present those proclamations.
Wow. That's a good way to look at it. Wow.
The bad stuff, like I said, may be personal.
Yeah, we all deal with those. I see the comments. I hear it out in the streets, but the good always outweighs the bad. I always talk about the silent majority. There are a lot of people who don't speak up about the positives that's going on, but I know that there are way more of them than there are the people who, have that outlet. And just because they're negative, just the fact that they have an outlet to give their grievances. Prior to 2019, that's a phrase I always say. Prior to 2019, there was no outlet for us as the public here in Jackson. But now there is, and, say what you want about what's going on in this city, but I personally believe that the positives always outweigh the negatives of what's going on. And working with you, I've seen your humbleness, I've seen how you are, but there are accomplishments that you've had. Just a few that I know of, just starting the budget committee in 2019 when you got on. And then, today we have our senior center actually being built, the first new building for the city of Jackson in a while. So you've got accomplishments, and one of the newest ones, you're on the Mayor's Institute for Pedestrian Safety with, I think, with the AARP. Some of the accomplishments, I know you're humble, but people, we want to know, what are some of your favorite accomplishments being mayor during this term?
I think when we came into office in 2019, there were so many unknowns of what our finances were, future ability. If you don't have money, you can't really do anything. And so, how do we prioritize our spending and cut back on a lot of things? And I just got a report yesterday of looking at just our employee count, and you go back to 2020, and we're probably overall about 100 or so down, 150 down from where we are today. And that's just because we cut so far back, just because we didn't know what we had and didn't know what the future held. And then you come into 2020, and when we had COVID, when we furloughed 196 employees, when we laid off 28 employees, full-time employees, and just made those cuts all the way back to just kind of, as we just starting to figure out our financial position, COVID happens, you don't know what the future is going to be. And so all these ideas that you come into office with on what to do, then you just kind of scrap all of those and put them off to the side. But we've, working with phenomenal people that, what I've seen, I think accomplishments of being able to empower them. And then what they've been able to do once you empower them of really taking ownership of their budgets, of their departments, of their work. I mean, I tell them all the time, if I know more about your work than you do as a department, then we got a problem. Like if I hire an engineer and I know more about engineering than the one that has the PE license, we have a problem. Because I don't know anything about engineering. So, but empowering those people and seeing those things, really take life in those departments, those department heads take ownership of it, and then, playing the long game, knowing that some of those things that we wanted to do, that I wanted to do, were not going to happen immediately. When we took office, we were, $78 million just in one principal debt. We reduced that principal debt down to, this year will be $34 or $32 million. Now you take into the effect of our interest and then some of the other capital leases that we have, we're still around 60, but those were operational expenses that we plan for, and so we know what those are. We know how to plan for those. Those are much easier to plan for. And then our fund balance was, our savings account, rainy day fund, was at $16 million. This year's at $26 million. We're finally at the threshold of 30% of our annual spending where we need to be at. And so we've got our finances kind of like when you build a building, you got to dig down to get the foundation right before you start building up. And so when we established the Aging Commission, the first thing they said was, "We want a senior center." I said, "Nope, not going to happen. We don't have any money." So let's do something else first. Let's find, Westwood, Northside, Melissus, T.R. White. Let's do, some travel around and get there. And so they did that. And then American Rescue Plan dollars came in, and then we had the funds for the senior center. We had to mothball the animal care center because we didn't have the funds for that. A lot of the things were valued engineer out of that project that we didn't have the money for. And so now we're back building that project. Our council's about to vote on a guaranteed maximum price at our May meeting for men's homeless shelter. In January, these are the things I'm really about to get excited about. January, we start construction on airways. We had to wait 3 years on money from a grant we got. January, February-ish, we'll probably start construction on Parkway, on those sidewalks. We're seeing investments in our quality of life, and those things take time. There's been a lot of deferred maintenance that we have to play catch up on, but we're chipping away at it. And they didn't get into the situation they're in overnight. They're not going to get repaired all overnight, but we're making progress.
Progress over perfection. I heard a man say that before.
Every day. That's it. Yeah.
Well, I've seen them because I'm working up here. The accomplishments from playgrounds to senior centers to airways. I mean, that's huge. I hear it all the time. When is airways going to get fixed? Y'all need to fix airways. Well, we're not just.
I ask the same question all the time.
We're not just repaving airways. It's just going to be a full rebuild.
Yeah. So you get from Highland to Johnson Street. Underneath that pavement is brick. And then from Johnson on out to the bypass is concrete. So we're taking all that out and then redoing the sublayers and all the other stuff that terminology I don't know. Actually rebuilding the road, taking that narrow 4-lane where you can't get next to a truck when you're going next to Lambeth, taking that from 2 lanes and a turn lane, widening the lanes, 10-foot sidewalks, working with JEA to bury the power lines so you're not having to worry about the poles on the side of the road. Buffers of greenery and making it just a nice gateway from Highway 70 into downtown. And at the same time, there's going to be private investment going on at the Jackson Sun Building. There's private investment going on in that Triangle Park, now Bicentennial Park, of a boutique hotel going there. So it's going to be, I'd say 2030 probably, because these things don't happen overnight. But 2030, when you come off the bypass and come into downtown, it's going to be completely different.
Progress over perfection. And government, it takes.
It's so much slower than private sector.
I mean, if you let me ask, if you could have done this yesterday and it'd be done, would you have done it?
Oh God, I could have done this. We applied for that first phase of Airways in 2020. And the Parkway grant, the sidewalk grant on Parkway. We applied for phase 1, take us from the health department to Kroger, and then we applied for phase 2 from Kroger to Aldersgate at Campbell. They denied phase 2 because we hadn't done anything with phase 1, but they haven't given us money for phase 1,
Right.
and so we're just kind of sitting there putting our hands up.
But it's happening.
That's
the thing. We love that. So we appreciate you and just telling us about you and the things that's going on. So being that this is like an educational thing, I got this thing called Pop Quiz. It's not really a quiz. It's just a few quick questions about you as mayor, things that you like. So both of us are comic guys. What's your favorite, Marvel or DC?
Oh man, probably Marvel, just for just their diversity in their movies lately.
Okay.
I think DC keeps trying to rebrand. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite hero / villain or either or for Marvel?
Yeah. Iron Man's the favorite hero.
All right, Iron Man. All right, number 2. What is your favorite book, or what are you currently reading right now?
I'm reading a bunch of kids' books right now, and so favorite book. I'm a huge Malcolm Gladwell fan, and so my next book on my list is Bomber Mafia. I haven't read that; it's his newest book, but Malcolm Gladwell, Simon Sinek, 2 favorite authors. So I've read everything of Malcolm Gladwell's up until the Bomber Mafia, and so that's, like I said, next on the list.
All right. If there's one thing in your terms as mayor that you would take back or redo all over again, what would it be and why?
I would probably say, closing businesses during COVID, just because at the time you thought that's going to get the message across, but you don't really look at the human element, right? I mean, you're preventing people from congregating in a business, but they're still going over to each other's houses. They're still hanging out together. They're not socially distancing. And so it really, I don't think, if we look at probably the data going back, I don't think it did what we thought it was going to do, because people were still people, and they still wanted to get around and skirt around what they thought was best for them. So, I probably wouldn't have done that.
All right. And last question, how do you see Jackson in the next 5 years?
Oh, man. I think it's going to be dramatically different. Like I said, I think, we look at just airways, that corridor there are going to be different as we work toward our sub-area master plans of the Jackson Plaza area. We'll partner with a firm hopefully in the next year now we have the plan for it. Now we got to implement it. And so how do we do that? How do we finance that? How do we get that private development? But start seeing that, kind of, you look at that's the geographic center of our city. And I kind of look at it as dropping the pebble in the water and just seeing the ripples come out of there of that redevelopment once we start that process. Housing is an issue, and those are things that we're starting to really take a deep dive in now on how we provide quality, affordable housing and accessibility. And we kind of change that affordable piece to attainable. Infilling, how do we partner with people and companies and look at incentives to create that attainable piece, so we're not missing out on the ends of the spectrum, but missing out on that middle piece, because you got to have the diversity in the housing stock to create the affordability, the attainability, and the higher end, because if you don't have the higher end, then the middle becomes the higher end, and there is no affordability there. And so how do we create that? You're going to continue to see us make those strategic investments in quality of life in our parks. We have state games coming next year, and so Madison County and the city are making investments in our parks. We're continuing to make $1 million investments a year in pedestrian infrastructure to make sure we have that connectivity. And so I think as you look around, how we make sure that we're connecting each other, our neighborhoods, residents, people, streets. We're looking at how we have an in-house paving crew. So, everything except our state routes, how we can pave those quicker and have those at a higher level, and really maximize our efforts by using contract labor and in-house labor to do so. And so it's, and then beautification. Talked with our groundskeeping crew in Public Works yesterday about how do we have a strategic plan, because what we don't want to do is just cut grass, put mulch or rock down, and put a green shrub in there just because it's low maintenance.
Yeah.
We want to make it enticing and beautiful and aesthetic to attract people to just go, wow, they care. It's kind of what I started talking to about our cabinet members of mastering the mundane. The things that aren't necessarily fun to do, they're not exciting, they're not headline grabbing. But if you don't do it, then it kind of takes everything else down. If you walk around downtown now, you kind of look at the sidewalks; they're much cleaner than they were a few weeks ago. We have a pressure washing crew that's just going around. That's all they do, and they're just pressure washing sidewalks and curbs and gutters. And while you may not notice it, it makes a huge difference from what it was a month ago when it was almost black. Yeah. And so now it's a fresh looking pavement and sidewalk and concrete.
It's funny. I cannot believe that I forgot to mention Old Hickory Service merchandise. But at some point closer down, we'll have you back on and we'll talk more about that, probably more in detail, especially once it all starts coming down and coming together.
And coming back up, hopefully.
So that's it's been an amazing 5 years up here in the mayor's office, and seeing me coming from Memphis, coming to Jackson in 2010, you wouldn't catch me downtown after work. Now, just being able to see people on their bikes and moms and dads with their kids and their strollers walking around downtown, there's a lot of positive things happening in the city as a whole. But I've heard people say that downtown is the soul of the city, and you don't want to lose your soul. And having a thriving downtown, which is happening, it's been an amazing thing to see that transition for me from 2010 to now in 2024 being in Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought, there was people that said when we broke ground for Jackson Walk in September of 2011, it was, going to be down here, Section 8 in a year and a half, and, no one's going to want to live there. And now we're on phase 3, planning phase 4. And, when we leave the office now, we're not just having to watch for cars leaving, we're having to watch for people walking and people running and, all that going on downtown. It's, sometimes 5:30 that there's people out walking around and doing things.
Yeah,
it's great. It's a great problem to have.
Everything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, Mayor, thank you for being our first guest on East Main 101. That concludes today's session. We'll have more sessions later on. So being that this is an educational thing, there will be homework. I mentioned it earlier. So your homework for today, for those who are watching, just visit our website, jacksontn.gov. Just browse around, see all those departments. The mayor probably missed a few of them. You will find all of them on our website, which is actually an accomplishment, I would say, because the old website that we had,
it's another.
It was bad. So this new website, jacksontn.gov. There's a story on that. When we have the mayor back on again, we'll talk about that. Visit our website. Just check out all the links. Check out all the departments. See what we have going on. A press release page has a lot of the news that we put out. Also, don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms. The links are all in the description, and follow us on YouTube and just hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so that you won't miss a session of class here at East Main 101. Thank you, and until next week, class dismissed.